Can we go ahead and begin housekeeping comments, please?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Well, good morning, and wanted to welcome everyone to today's Technology Committee meeting, our last of the year. Time has sure flown by. Let's go ahead and take a roll call, please.
Supervisor Hagman. Here. Mayor Locke Dawson. Absent. Councilmember McCallum.
Here.
Board Member Padilla Campos. Absent. Supervisor Wagner.
You're on mute.
I see the supervisor there.
Chair Rodriguez.
Here. It looks like we have the supervisor, you're still on mute. We're having some audio challenges there with you. Are we able to unmute him at all through the Zoom? Okay. Looks like it came off. How about now, supervisor? Okay. Well, I know they're working on that. In the meantime, we'll count him as here. Can we do that? Okay, very good.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Fantastic. Well, we figure that all out. We'll just move on to action item number 1. Recognize revenue for implementation of programs for replacement of Class 6 and 7 vehicles and school buses with zero emission vehicles and reimburse general fund. And we have a staff.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, you can now hear me. I'm
Yes, welcome.
thanking my technical staff here. I appreciate it. Thank you. And for records, I'm here.
Fantastic. Glad we can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed with staff report, please.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Martinez, and I am a program supervisor in the Office of Technology Advancement. On this agenda item, we'll be recognizing revenue to implement replacement programs for Class 6 and 7 vehicles and school buses. Next slide, please. Earlier this year, South Coast AQMD submitted 2 proposals in response to U.S. EPA's Notice of Funding Opportunity for Clean Heavy-Duty Vehicles grant. The first proposal, entitled Electric, is for Class 6 and 7 internal combustion vehicles to be replaced with zero-emission vehicles. The second proposal, Care for Kids, is for older internal combustion engines, school buses to be replaced with zero-emission technology. In addition, both proposals allow funding for supporting infrastructure. This month, both proposals were selected by the EPA to be awarded. Next slide, please. Under the electric proposal, US EPA awarded South Coast AQMD $33,898,522. Eligible equipment include Class 6 and 7 box trucks, TRU trucks, step vans, and supporting infrastructure. Next slide, please. Under the Care for Kids proposal, US EPA awarded South Coast AQMD up to $24,842,632. Eligible equipment include public school buses and supporting infrastructure. Next slide, please. These projects will provide emission reductions towards overburdened communities, providing help to improve air quality, and providing education through workforce training and community engagement. Next slide, please. As recommended action, staff is recommending to recognize $33,898,522 for the electric program, $24,842,632 for the Care for Kids program, and lastly, to reimburse the general fund in the amount of $6,061,504. This concludes my presentation. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for the report, and I could see why we're having a meeting here in December. Do we have any initial questions or comments, colleagues? Mayor McCallum?
Thank you very much. How many school districts responded to or are going to be responding to this?
So a notice was sent out to all the school districts, and we did get a response for about 74. I mean, we had a response for totaling for 74 school buses and 8 school districts, a part of 8 school districts.
And were there any in San Bernardino County?
I believe there are, yes.
And
Redlands Unified,
Redlands Unified, San Bernardino Unified didn't respond?
no.
Do you not know why they didn't? All right, thank you.
Any other questions, colleagues? Okay, any public comment?
Hi, it's Patricia in City of Riverside.
Fantastic.
No?
Welcome, Mayor.
Okay, hi. I just wanted to let you know I'm here, my audio. I wasn't promoted as a panelist, so now I'm on as a panelist, so you can hear me. Thank you.
Glad you can join us. We'll make sure we add you to the roll call. And did you have any questions, Mayor, on this item?
I don't. Thank you. Thank you, though.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome again. Okay, so let's go to public comment, please.
We have one public comment from Harvey Editor.
Okay,
Hello, am I being heard?
yes, Harvey, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Good morning. My name's Harvey Eder. I'm speaking for myself and the Public Solar Power Coalition and like-minded folks and entities. I shouldn't be doing this, but there's time for a process. This is not available this morning for download or yesterday. This committee meeting was not announced when this one was announced a week ago, and it wasn't up till yesterday. Okay. So now on these buses and what it's required by CEQA under CEQA, under socioeconomic analysis, to do political economics with who's going to own, control, and make the decisions on these. And also it has to be solar, 100% this stuff about zero and what it means and the implications of that. It has to be like solar co-ops, partnerships for low-income people, the issue of equity that we've brought out, the economist Piketty and 14 at a Paris capital in the 21st century, and in 20 capital and ideology incorporated by reference into the record here. 2/3 of the country has seen no increase in income or equity in the last 40, 50 years. And it's threatened our democracy. We can see what's up now. All right. We're shutting down the government. Chaos. All right. It's gone to the Supreme Court. Okay. We want to reserve some other time, but that's a violation of CEQA, and it's got to be stopped. And this is done. And everything that came out of COP29 and help the South, that we've got to leverage it, and we've got to volunteer that as the low and middle income people to take 10, 20%, and the equity that we develop ourselves with co-ops and whatnot, of franchise, new models, etc. All right, thanks, and we're reserving time. We should get 3 minutes on everything legally, and we're going to challenge that. Everything that's also recorded, that you change stuff around. We want from EPA and TR, we're calling out for funding. Every district and CARB, independent of the stuff that, because you're purged like the investment committee from last year. Anyway, enough. We'll talk later. Public comments. Thanks. Bye.
Do we have any other public comment? I'm not seeing any in the queue as well. Okay. Well, then we'll close public comment. We'll bring it back. Colleagues, any further questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, just quick question. Do we have a general timeline as to when we anticipate, the buses would be available and in light of some of the supply chain issues and things of that nature, but we have a sense of when schools would be able to have those buses?
So the timeline is in 2025 and 2026, so within the next 2 years.
Okay, similarly with the Class 6 and 7 vehicles, any sense?
Correct.
Same?
Same.
Okay. Would really be eager to hear any updates on timing of when those vehicles will be available and ready for deployment, particularly with the schools. So if you could let us know, I look forward to that. Thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Supervisor Hagman, Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Councilmember McCallum,
Yes.
Board Member Padilla-Campos, absent, Supervisor Wagner,
Aye.
and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes?
Okay, item passes 5 ayes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a disclosure on item number 2. I don't have a financial interest, but I am required to identify for the record that I am a regional council member for the Southern California Association of Governments, which is involved in this item.
Thank you. Any other disclosures?
Ditto.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor.
And same for me, Mr. Chairman. I'm a member of SCAG, though I don't have a financial interest. SCAG is involved in this item.
Fantastic. Any others?
Same for Mayor Lock Dawson, Riverside. Thank you.
Thank you all for your service on SCAG. Really appreciate that. We'll, that tees up our item 2, execute contracts and transfer funds under CPRG Invest Clean program and issue RFP for third-party facilitator for Invest Clean and Electric. And we have a staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair and the member of committee. Next slide, please. So next, this item is really the start of our implementation of our CPRG Invest Clean programs. So a little background, the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant was created by the Inflation Reduction Act to develop plans and implement projects to reduce emissions. So during the process of developing priority action plans and our Invest Clean proposal, staff at South Coast AQMD has played an active role in participating in the 2 steering committee within 2 MSAs. The MSA territory, as you can see on the map, cover as far west as San Pedro Bay ports, as far east as the California and Arizona border. So we submit the proposal in April, title Invest Clean, and it was awarded, and we execute agreement with EPA for nearly $500 million in October. Next slide, please. So in the Invest Clean proposal, there are 3 major elements. First is to implement 4 incentive measures to reduce emission from the goods movement activities, as well as developing the workforce training programs and engaging with our community and implement community benefit projects. Next slide, please. So under the goods movement emission reduction measures, there are 4 incentive measures, which including the installation of charging infrastructure to support zero emission equipment, and the replacement of a Class A vehicle with zero emission vehicle, and the implement last mile deliver freight vehicle, which include Class 4 and 5. Replacement with zero emissions, and the pilot deployment of a battery electric switcher locomotive, and the replacement of cargo handling equipment with zero emission cargo handling equipment. Next slide, please. So a brief timeline, we submitted the proposal in April. It was awarded in July for nearly $500 million. Our board recognized the award in September. In October, we executed agreement with EPA. With board's approval in January, we will start contracting with some of our project partners. Next slide, please. So during the first quarter of 2025, we will start meeting with our stakeholders and engage with our communities. And then we will execute contract with a SCAC for them to implement the last mile freight programs. And follow in the spring, we will release the locomotive solicitation, followed by the cargo handling equipment solicitation. And by summer, we will release the infrastructure and Class A vehicle solicitations. Next slide, please. So in the proposal, we have a set of expected emission reductions, which includes $12 million metric tons of CO2 emission over 25-year period, as well as 1,600 tons of NOx annually. Next slide, please. So to sustain and support the transformation of a zero-emission goods movement equipment, we need the workforce training. So workforce, we will be partnering with a National Electric Contractor Association as well and the IBEW to develop and expand their existing workforce training programs, leveraging their large network and extensive apprenticeship program to develop a workforce training to ensure that we have a robust workforce to support the deployment of our zero-emission equipment. Next slide, please. And through the RFP, we will select third-party facilitator to support our Invest Clean program, as well as the electric, which was mentioned in the previous items. The third-party facilitator will assist us creating a steering committees and develop the community benefit plans and implement community benefit projects. Next slide, please. As for the Alliance for Sustainable Energy, in the proposal, we have a set of expected emission reduction to ensure that we achieve the emission reduction that we proposed in the proposal. And we will be partnering with NREL, which is operated by the Alliance for Sustainable Energy, to develop a standardized data collection process. And NREL will help us validate the emission reduction as well as monitor the the program performance to ensure that we achieve the emission reductions in the proposal. And with that, also will improve our national database to help us deploy zero-emission equipment technology nationally. Next slide, please. So for the SCAC's last mile freight vehicle program, we will be building on their existing last freight program to replace Class 4 and 5 vehicle with zero emissions. The allocation for this is $51.5 million, including $1.5 million administrative costs for SCAC to implement the project. This $50 million project cost convert to about 740 vehicle replacement. Next slide, please. So the proposal for this item is to develop workforce training program and implement community benefit projects and execute 3 contracts with IBEW, NREL, and SCAC, and also release RFP to select third-party facilitator for both in Invest Clean and electric program. And we have a temporary website, where all the Invest Clean information are hosted. Next slide, please. So the recommended action for this item is to execute 3 contracts of $5 million with IBEW for the workforce training and $1.8 million with Alliances for Sustainable Energy, NREL, for the data validations, and the SCAC to implement that mile freight program for $51.15 million. Next slide. Next slide, please. And also to issue an RFP to select a third-party facilitator to support the Invest Cleans and electric programs and execute contract with third-party facilitator. And to transfer $20,000 to allow the initial costs of the third-party facilitators' work. Next slide, please. And the transfer $100,000 to help NREL for the initial program setup costs that will be reimbursed after we receive the reimbursement from EPA. And to appropriate $150,000 to modify the existing online project portal to receive applications and track the application submittal for the Invest Clean programs. With that, conclude my presentations. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the report, and we'll ask if there's any initial questions. Supervisor Hagman.
Very good, exciting news going forward. Again, I think I brought this up, but when we got the award, we have so many other government agencies working on the workforce already, not to mention our community college and college systems, but our workforce investment boards that each county has. And also, I call ours IRAN. I don't know what the other ones are called, but we're all tasked with the same thing for this specific purpose that we're funding. $5 million is not a lot going out there. I'm fine with that. What I'm just saying is I'm hoping that we can encourage these silos to work together so we're not having duplicate or competition upon training for this. So I know specifically for our IRAN, we have, that's a third of our charter or a third of the dollars we're spending, and we're partnering up with outreach to colleges to recruit, to train in green energy, to get those students ready to go, and to also work with the Workforce Investment Board. So I don't know how to coordinate that, but I just hate to see us all duplicate and use these dollars in different ways if we could combine them together.
Thank you for the recommendations.
Yeah, Supervisor, just a note on that IBW's got a very wide reach in the area. They have the apprenticeship programs already in place. This really is to help focus on some very specific areas. That's the EV charging installation, EV charging maintenance, project management, for students interested in going into that, city planning to help with the infrastructure. So really trying to scale this workforce up, as we've heard in many cases with our projects that there's not a workforce available to do a lot of the work. And you'll hear the next item that our EV chargers here at our own headquarters, 50% of them are down, and we have found that there's not a lot of people to repair them. So this is a very focused effort, trying to get more electrical engineers through colleges also. So, but yeah, note taken, we will have IBW reach out to a lot of the existing programs.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's go to public comment. I don't see any online. Well, looks like we have Mr. Eder.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you. Good morning again. I'm Harvey Eder speaking for myself, for PSBC and Folk. Ditto what we said in the last item, that for these community plans and whatnot, they've got the 617 communities. So now we put in the 16 solar New Deal, 100 exhibits from the Department of Energy. NREL is DOE. They're in, and they replace CIRI, which is Solar Research Institute. Start out at says after the first or if they okay. So now they've got an executive order that says 40% of the systems that go in low-income communities have got to be like solar renewables. Okay. Now what we're saying is that's not enough. It's got to be at least 80, 100, and we could involve government and labor and the communities in equity through worker co-ops and different models, public power. But it's got to be the issue of decision-making control. It's violation of CEQA and NEPA.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other comments in the queue, and no one here for a public comment, so we'll go ahead and close close public comment. Bring it back for any final questions or comments on this item. Okay, I'll just, before we got a motion and a second, and just as far as their discussion, I'd be interested in an update on the workforce training aspect, the outreach to the supervisors, point as to what type of feedback they saw county to county with workforce development efforts. Again, if it's opportunities for collaboration and to leverage on what others are doing, great. If it's truly that narrow of a focus and no one else is doing it, then all the better affirmation that we're trailblazing, but would really certainly be interested in finding out how we can collaborate. And then also, could we go back to item or slide 6? There is a timeline there. I'd like to believe that was a slide where you had the next steps. It was like the January, February, that's it, perfect. Can you share a little bit about the community engagement activities and meeting with stakeholders anticipated first quarter? Share a little bit about what that entails.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much. So for first quarter, community engagement activities will begin and we'll start meeting with stakeholders. So we're planning on holding office hours on a regular basis. And we'll be outreaching broadly in both MSAs, reaching out to the COGs for help and the cities and all of our interest lists to ensure everybody has an opportunity to meet with us. We'll also be putting up information on our website to educate folks on what those projects they can apply for, so they have an idea when they come to office hours ahead of time so they can ask really good questions. And we can respond in a timely fashion, so they're prepared to apply for the funds. We also will be setting up direct meetings with various stakeholders as well. And we'll be bringing on our third-party facilitator for the community benefits. And we'll get that outreach going to communities directly, again, throughout the MSA, the 4-county MSA area. And I think that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. It's great to hear that there'll be that type of concentrated effort. I really want to make sure that this is first historic. So again, thank you staff for the great work and being able to work with the stakeholders and everyone to get this grant. It can't say enough about that, but can you put that back up on the screen though for a minute? What I do want to make sure though that all of those parties that were involved in helping to get the grant, all the input you had on the advance, that now following back up with them. So if you could let our committee know when those meetings are, those groups, stakeholder groups that you are planning to interact with. I think we just all want to do everything we can to help support that effort in outreach and make sure that there's as much transparency and everyone knows about the opportunity to apply. Also would be interested in hearing back. We obviously have the current president of SCAG here and 4 members of SCAG on the committee, but it'd be great to hear more about that aspect of the program. So when it's appropriate to have a representative with SCAG share a little bit about the last mile freight program, would love to hear that as well. And then as we get into each of these milestones, March, April, May, June, and July, as we have our meetings, like to continue to have on the agenda ongoing updates on how things are progressing. So thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Supervisor Hagman? Mayor Lock Dawson?
Aye.
Councilmember McKellen?
Yes.
Board Member Padilla-Campos? Absent. Supervisor Wagner?
Aye.
And Chair Rodriguez?
Yes?
Okay, item passes 5 ayes.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 3, transfer and appropriate funds, recognize revenue, and execute contract for EV charger installation services at South Coast AQMD headquarters.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Hello.
members of the Tech Committee. My name is Vasilios Papapostolou, and I'm with the Technology Demonstration Unit in the Technology Advancement Office. Next slide, please. By way of background, back in August, we released a request for proposals to replace the electric vehicle chargers here at South Coast AQMD headquarters. We received 6 proposals for consideration, and 2 of those qualified for evaluation. As you just heard, most of the EV chargers that we have here at HQ are no longer functional. More than 55% of those, as Dr. Kanzenstein mentioned, are very old and faulty and cannot be repaired. Also, last October, AQMD was awarded a $70,000 grant from the CalSTART Communities in Charge program to replace existing EV chargers here at South Coast AQMD headquarters. Next slide, please. So this is a map layout of the 3 areas at South Coast where we have EV chargers right now, the existing system. So going from west to east, we have chargers that are distributed as follows: 17 ports at the parking area by the CC8 room, 12 ports at the front lobby parking area, and then 65 ports in the upper deck parking area at the very east side. Next slide, please. So again, 6 proposals were received for consideration, and 2 of those met the minimum qualifications by the RFP. The proposed selected vendor to engage in this project is Greenwealth Energy Solutions, and the cost for this work is $723,248. We have a total of 55 level 2 charging stations or 94 ports, meaning that 94 vehicles can charge at the same time. The proposal will take care of replacing the hardware in a like-for-like fashion. The hardware is by ChargePoint. Also, the proposal will be developing software and online dashboard for real-time remote monitoring of the network, control software on the ground on the charging stations. Also, there will be energy management capability and scheduling capability, and also pricing structure management capabilities there with the software. There will be also a 7-year service agreement with the vendor, and the estimated timeline for completion of this project is between 8 and 10 weeks, including permits and installation of the system, removal of the existing system, and replacement with the new hardware. Next slide, please. So again, the proposed project cost is $723,248 from the Clean Fuels Program Fund, and the $70,000 grant from CalSTART will be used towards that cost. Next slide, please. So the recommended actions for this item are to transfer this amount, $723,248 from the Clean Fuels Fund into the general fund and appropriate that into the Technology Advancement Office 2024-2025 budget. Recognize the CalSTART revenue at $70,000 into the Clean Fuels Fund, and authorize our executive officer to execute a contract with the selected vendor, Greenwealth Energy Solutions. This concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Any questions or comments? Mayor McCallum?
Thank you. Which area is going to be done first?
We hope all at the same time, but we will have to see. Is there a preference?
We'll prioritize CC8 because there's fewer chargers over there and work our way towards the bigger installation probably.
And I would hope that the CC8 would be done at a time when the board members are not going to be here?
Oh, definitely.
Good.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, Mayor Lock Dawson.
Hi, yes, thank you. So it seems to me that charging technologies are changing very rapidly and there's a lot of different ones out there. I mean, just even for instance, in Riverside, we're hosting a new company here called Vol2, which has a whole nother type of charging technology. And I'm curious sort of what our strategy is for being adaptive, you know, are these things going to become quickly outdated or another charging type of, you know, technology is going to usurp it? I don't know. I'm just curious if you had thoughts on that, if you could share that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, that's a good question. So far, I think we've seen that the plugs are pretty well standardized now. You know, you have the Tesla plug or you have the J1772 plug. With these installations, we're going to have both types of plugs installed. And I think on the charger technology side, what we're seeing with this installation versus what's out there currently is really the software management is going to be much more capable. Right now, it's hard for us to go on our network and see which chargers are down, you know, which ones are plugged in, how much energy is being dispersed. And that's going to be a great new capability for us to be able to see which ones need repair, you know, even change the charging amounts, you know, if we have time of use rates, how much we charge for the kilowatt hours. So.
Thank you for that question and comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Any final questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Just the general life of the charging system, said the warranty was no longer, what is that general time for warranty typically for?
5 to 7 years
5 to 7 years.
is the suggested lifetime of the chargers nowadays.
Okay.
So we will have a 7-year service agreement in place.
And do we have a sense of, this is kind of a microcosm of throughout our service area, we have charging stations that we're funding, could be hundreds or more. Do we have a sense of kind of tracking when those warranties are going to expire or when we anticipate the use of life would be anticipated going out? Just kind of at the horizon, essentially, of when this would be happening across our region. Do we at all have a sense of that? Because what it does have an implication of is these type of investments are going to be happening across our service area as this happens.
Yeah, you know, just to know, so these are the light duty chargers. A lot of the chargers you see come through the committee are
yeah.
the heavy duty truck chargers.
Same question though.
Those are the commercial side of things, and they get a lot more usage, you know,
Okay.
anticipated usage. But the charger itself really, say on the heavy duty side, although they're expensive, right, to buy that box, really the difficult part is getting that power to that box. And so once that power is there, that infrastructure, they can, you know, replace those chargers as needed because they get, you know, hopefully heavy usage. But we do anticipate 3 to 5 years on those heavy duty chargers. The chargers that we have out there right now, some of them are 14 years old, so we've got pretty good lifespan out of them. And we did, you know, put in the 7-year agreement, maintenance agreement on this infrastructure. But what we saw was typically around 5 years. So there was a little bit of addition there that we got some resistance on that, but we did put it in there.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. We'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just want to note that Mr. Adder raised his hand for public comment, but he is out of time for all agenda items. He will get 3 minutes during the public comment period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed with the vote.
Supervisor Hagman, Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Councilmember McAllen,
Yes.
Board Member Padilla-Campos,
Yes.
Supervisor Wagner,
Aye.
and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, item passes 6 ayes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to item 4. Recognize funds, execute and amend contracts for zero-emission heavy-duty truck replacement projects and reimburse general fund for administrative costs. We'll have a staff report.
Hey, good morning, committee and chair. My name is Tom Lee. I'm one of the managers in overseeing incentives. And this item is a recognize funds, execute contracts, and for zero-emission trucks replacement, and to reimburse our general fund. Let me point out that this is a combination of two different items, and I will speak on each separately. Okay, next slide. Thanks. Okay, this first item is really a grant award acceptance item. South Coast AQMD received a $4.5 million award from the US EPA's DERA program to replace Class 8 diesel trucks with zero-emission trucks. The projects from this DERA program will be selected from existing incentive programs like our Carl Moyer and VW Mitigation Trust program. Now, from this award, $4.4 million will be used for project funds, and $100,000 have been set aside for admin costs to run the program. Okay, next slide, please. Now, the second item is really to correct an error from previous board action. In September of 2020, Sunline Transit was a partner with South Coast AQMD in the project to deploy 6 fuel cell buses on using a grant from US EPA's Target Airshed program. And all 6 fuel cell buses as of now have been deployed and logged more than 1 million miles. But at that board action back then, there was an error in the fund number for the admin cost authorization. So staff proposes to correct the fund number to 17 from the incorrect 31, so the admin costs can be reimbursed. Okay, next slide, please. So staff recommends to recognize the DERA award into Fund 31 for zero-emission truck replacement projects. Staff also recommends to reimburse $100,000 to admin for admin costs to run the DERA program. And lastly, for the Sunline Transit project, staff recommends to reimburse general fund for admin costs after we correct the correct fund number to 17. So this concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, any public comment? Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back, consider a motion. Okay, second, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Supervisor Hagman, Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Councilmember McCallan,
Yes.
Board Member Padilla Campos,
Yes.
Supervisor Wagner,
Looks like he's out of audio.
Aye,
but-
Wagner, aye.
Yes, okay.
We'll get you a teenager to teach you how to do that.
Chair Rodriguez.
That's funny and necessary, both.
Yes.
Okay, item passes 6 ayes.
Thank you. We'll move ahead to other business. Anyone have a comment on that? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, our public comment period. And I see we have Mr. Etter.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yep. Hi. My name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition and like-minded folks. There's about a half a dozen different Federal Register notices that have come up in the last 3 years in relations to NOx, SOx, PM, violations of all this for 50 years, backsliding, all kinds of crap. Okay, we've had health problems that went ADA and reaching out on notices to all that stuff, including contingency measures on the front end, back end, and all this stuff to challenge the SIPs that are out there for South Coast, the different districts around Chowchilla, et cetera, San Diego, San Joaquin. Okay, the FIP is coming down, and the FIP and the guidelines do not limit it just to highway. It's open up to all federal stuff. So we're hidden for chaos right now. The government's being shut down. We don't know what's going to happen. We got Musk in there advising on this stuff, and we've put comments on this in history. And anyway,
Mr. Editor, if you could please relate your comments to matters relating within this committee's jurisdiction. So technology advances
this is within
relating
the
to air
committee
quality.
jurisdiction, and I resent this, and that you cannot understand that this. Okay, now we tried to get a living Christmas tree, and we got a living Christmas tree in the White House, and it's been purged from 1970. It was done out of UC Santa Cruz with the head of environmental studies, Dr. Dick Cooley. Okay, we met at Ruckelshaus, the head of EPA. He hired me from the West to represent one of the 4 students from the UC for Council on Environmental Quality. Okay, and that has been purged. There's a 100-year history. There's a tree from Alaska that's being used. We're trying to get a hold of the history of what was cut and what was not cut. It's all messed up. Now, this has to do, we were asked to put in a $500,000 million proposal on trees. We had a lot in 71, incorporating our revenues, December 3rd, cover from View section LA Times and 2 pages inside of what we did in DC back then and what was gone on. And this is all being purged, and it's part of Davos and the...
This comment is not related to within this committee's jurisdiction, so I would recommend we move on.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and proceed. I don't see any other public comment here today, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. Before we move to item 7, I just want to take a moment and thank Mark Taylor for his years of service, dutifully helping me as a staff consultant, as well as his time with Supervisor Janice Rutherford, and is looking into a new time of retirement. Wishing him all the best to him and his beautiful family on this new chapter and journey ahead. Also note his prior service and history with AQMD. And Wayne, if you wanted to, sounds like you wanted to add something to that.
I appreciate that, Chair. Also, we want to wish Mark all the best in his new chapter, but also want to make an announcement as well for one of our current staff. Seated next to me for her last AQMD committee meeting is Ruby Laity. She's one of our attorneys and has been instrumental in negotiating. I can't even count how many agreements with very difficult parties, very difficult circumstances, whether it was with ARB, whether it was individual grantees, or just helping us better understand some of the challenges. She, unfortunately, and it's bittersweet, she will be leaving us to pursue an opportunity that she couldn't refuse in San Diego. So it's much closer for her home. And I just want to say that we really appreciate her 16 years of service and wish her all the best in her new venture, and let her know that she's part of the family and she can always come back. So we hope that she does. So just wanted to acknowledge her contributions to the district and to the South Coast region, and to make sure that you as committee members were aware of that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for a great 16 years and going to San Diego. So jealous. That's my best to you and your family and your new endeavor. Congratulations. With that, we'll go ahead, and our next meeting will be Friday, January 24th, 2025 at noon. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and thank you so much, colleagues and staff, for wonderful work. It's an honor and privilege to serve on committee and the governing board in the city of Yorba Linda. Thank you.